War Pugs! Today we're going to be checking out some tasting history with Max Miller. Before we do that, I'd like to send a special thank you to Silent Warrior because the other day, this arrived. This is Tasting History with Max Miller while I'm checking out Tasting History with Max Miller. Now, this is his book, and I can tell you that this arrived yesterday. We didn't really notice it until basically after Shenanigans was done. But this is Tasting History with Max Miller's book. I'm going to show you all the inside right here. This is actually extremely well done. It is a recipe book. It also contains all of the history behind everything. That actually, soul cakes. That actually was pretty good. But me and the Hospiller are going to be taking this, and we're actually going to be making some recipes out of this. We've been checking through to see what we have access to right now, as far as, you know, ingredients and things like that. But I do want to try some of these. Now, I will list off one recipe here because my wife has the brain of an 8-year-old. She's an absolute child.
Yep.
She is an absolute child, which makes sense because she's with me and I'm an absolute moron. But she wants to try out, and I quote, where are we? I'm looking for it now because I didn't immediately. Oh yes. From England, 1597, the farts of Portingale. Somebody please help me. But just help me with her. Like, what are you, 5?
It says
Shut up. There it is, right there. So apparently this is a dish that calls for currants, kosher salt, ground mace, black pepper, clove, mutton of lamb, pitted mutton or lamb. Excuse me, I'm so sorry to mispronounce something I'm reading. Excuse me, thank you. Unsalted beef broth and a mild raspberry sauce or gravy. I think we're going to try the raspberry sauce, but this is going to require some stuff to get together. There is a butcher in town that we have visited before, like last year. I think they might have some of this, but there are so many interesting recipes in here. They are separated by region, and the dates that the recipe is actually from is actually listed on here. He has recipes, and this is the one that I want to try the most right here is actually it's the first recipe on here. And it's the stew of lamb, and it's from Babylon in 1740 BC. Again, thank you, Silent Warrior. You will see me using this on the Hospiller's channel with her. We're going to be trying some of these recipes ourselves. And in the meantime, when I'm not using it, I do have the wood to build shelves now. I just really don't have the paint. So we're going to be painting, and then we're going to be doing that. But Tasting History with Max Miller. Here's his book. Like I said, it's very good so far. So, link will be in the description below. Check it out. If you'd like to, pick up a copy. Tell him the old man sent you. But for today, we're going to be finding out, you know, how the Vikings ate. And what I mean by that is what the Vikings ate immediately before ransacking a church. Let's get right into this. Guys, all of Max Miller's links are going to be in the description down below. Please go check him out. And let's get right into this.
I can imagine that raiding an Anglo-Saxon monastery was exhausting work.
Yes!
But luckily, medieval monks ate pretty darn well. So
Nice.
Along with a nice silver chalice, make sure to pillage yourself up a dish of pork with berry sauce. Does a Viking...
That looks so insanely good. I'm not even gonna lie. We're trying this one too.
What is it?
It's pork with berry sauce,
Mm.
raspberries and strawberries.
Viking good. So thank you to Porter Road for sponsoring this video as we make up a dish that might have been eaten on the day that the
That's
Vikings
pork
first
roast.
raided
Huh?
We have a pork roast.
We do have that.
Lindisfarne. This time on Tasting History.
Nice.
Yes, June 8th, 793 is seen as the day that the Viking Age kicked off with the raid on the Northumbrian monastery on the Isle of Lindisfarne. And June is a great time to start the raiding season because the snow is all gone, the seas are relatively calm, and it's berry picking season, which is why we're making the recipe that we're making today. Unfortunately, the thing about making recipes from this period in history is there are no recipes from this period, at least in Northern Europe. So we have to rely on other writings from the time that have to kind of do with food and archaeology, which brings me to this wonderful book called An Early Meal.
Nice.
The authors Daniel Serra and Hannah Thunberg created recipes based on the methods and ingredients available in specific areas of Scandinavia and England during the Viking Age. So I am adapting one of their recipes for a berry sauce using ingredients that probably would have been available on the Isle of Lindisfarne in 793.
Nice!
Now when it comes to what meat to use, there are actually several options.
Okay.
They had geese, fish, sheep, puffin, and even dolphin. See, the story...
Dolphin. I don't think that we're going to be having dolphin.
Goes that one of Lindisfarne's most famous inhabitants, Saint Cuthbert, was given 3 servings of dolphin by God. Unfortunately, I don't have any dolphin, and I wouldn't eat it even if I did.
Oh, come on, be a pal!
So instead, I am going to use some meat that I got from today's sponsor, Porter Road. Porter Road is an online butcher based in Tennessee that was started by 2 chefs who wanted to help people get their hands on quality cuts of meat like this wonderful pork tenderloin or this gorgeous bone-in ribeye.
Nice.
They also offer less common cuts of meat like Merlot steak or this Denver steak with gorgeous marbling. And I had never had this cut of meat before, and let me tell you, it is brilliant. It has all of the flavor of something like a chuck roast, but the tenderness of a filet. Porter Road works with local farmers who pasture-raise their animals and practice humane animal husbandry.
And they're from Kentucky, so they have standard Kentuckian behavior. I'm telling you what, we need to get Kentucky Ballistics with these guys to see if he can cook meat by shooting at it. I don't know if it's possible, but I can almost guarantee you he'd try.
There's no added hormones or antibiotics, and the beef is dry-aged for 14 days and arrives fresh, never frozen, direct to your door.
Very nice.
You can order individual cuts a la carte, or they also have subscriptions. And in addition to the pork loin and the Denver steak that I got, they also sent me pork jowl, ground beef, hot Italian sausage, boneless pork chops. Perfect for a summer barbecue.
There you go.
Give Porter Road a try, click the link in the description and get 15% off of your first order. That's 15% using my link in the description.
It will be... This is an older video, but the link will be in the description below. It might work. I cannot guarantee it, but hey, you know what? Treat yourself to something, Warpugs. Why not? You get 15% off. Let's go.
You can use pretty much any meat that you want for this recipe, but I'm going to go with that pork tenderloin. And the reason is, 1, they did raise pigs on the island at the time, and 2, one of my favorite stories about St. Cuthbert involves pigs. Actually, pig fat, though he didn't actually use it for eating. See, when St. Cuthbert first arrived on the Isle of Lindisfarne, he first exorcised some demons, which is what I did when I moved into the new place, and then he built himself a house.
As one does.
But very quickly, he noticed 2 ravens picking at his thatched roof because they were trying to make their nest. And even though he was a saint, he lost his patience and banished them both from the island. But after 3 days, one of the 2 returned to the feet of the man of God with humble cries, asking his pardon and indulgence. Well, I guess Cuthbert had had time to cool down, and so he said, okay, you guys can come back to the island, and as a thank you, they brought him some pig fat, lard, and it was enough that for the next year, he was able to grease the boots of any visitors who came.
Nice.
So in Anglo-Saxon England, it was a great honor to have your boots greased, whereas when I offer to spread pig fat on people's Converse, I get weird looks. But regardless, that is why for this recipe I chose to use 1 pound or a half kilogram of pork tenderloin.
You learn something new every day. And I mean, you learn something new every day. Who thought? I didn't even know that was a custom. I knew that washing the feet of somebody was considered a great honor and privilege in certain cultures. But greasing their boots? Did not know that.
You'll also need some salt for seasoning,
of course,
2 tablespoons or about 25 grams of lard or another oil for cooking, 1½ cups or about 125 grams of chopped spring onion or leek, 2 teaspoons brown mustard seeds, roughly crushed, 1 pound or a half kilogram of fresh berries, 1 teaspoon chopped mint, a ½ cup or 120 milliliters of water, and a ½ cup or 120 milliliters of mead. I'm using this wonderful mead from Denmark called Viking Blood, not made with actual blood nor actual Vikings.
You see, that's just false advertising at that point. You know, you gotta be honest with me.
But it is absolutely fantastic, and I'll put a link in the description to where you can get that from Curiata, but honestly, you can use any mead you want.
Okay.
So how you cook the mead is also really up to you, but the Anglo-Saxons loved boiling everything. Meat, fruit, vegetables, fish, you name it, they boiled it. Sometimes they would add milk or honey or wine or mead to help flavor it, but even so, boiling a pork tenderloin just doesn't seem like a good thing to do.
No.
Luckily, while not as common, they would roast meats over an open flame, or I was recently reading the Leechdoms, as one does, which are kind of medical texts with semi-recipes from the time period, and they would often mention baking meats using the word abaken, which is to put it in an oven. And luckily, the monks at Lindisfarne had ovens.
Kitty, what do you think about boiling meat? It's just a general question. I want to know what your opinion is. Are you sure? You have no opinion on the matter? None at all? Well, I'm sorry to hear you say that. You ready to get... Yeah, go ahead. All right.
So as I don't have the heart to boil my pork tenderloin, I will be braising or baking this in an oven.
Okay.
So first, salt the pork well, then melt some lard in a pot over a flame, then add the pork and sear it all around until nice and brown, about 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay.
Then remove the pork and add the onions or leeks to the pot and cook for another 2 to 3 minutes.
One of the things I've noticed about some, like the way that, you know, I learn how to cook versus the way that I see a lot of things in this, a lot of things from Tasting History, is they reuse the elements many, many times over. Like the same lard that was used to cook the pork is also used to take care of the leeks, and it's just a reusing of things. Now, that makes a lot of sense considering the lack of resources back in the day, but I've never given that a shot, and it might be worth it to try it every once in a while.
Then pour in the mead and the water and stir, removing any brown bits from the bottom of the pot. Then add the mint and the mustard seed and bring to a simmer before adding the pork back in.
That must smell
Cover the pot
good.
and transfer it to an oven at 325 degrees Fahrenheit or 160 Celsius for about 20 to 30 minutes, or until the center of the pork reaches 145 degrees. Then remove the pot and set it back on the stove, then remove the pork and let it rest while you prepare the berry sauce. Just add the berries to the pot with the braising liquid and bring it to a gentle simmer.
Okay.
Let them cook until they're nice and soft. You can't really overcook them, so I'd go at least 7 to 8 minutes. Then turn off the flame and mash the berries, then pour the entire mixture through a sieve, pressing out as much of the liquid as possible. Then return the juice to the pot and simmer for another 5 to 7 minutes to let it reduce down.
Oh my
And while
God.
the sauce reduces, let us also reduce the entire Viking Age down to that first day in 793.
Ragnar! Ragnar might not be an actual historical figure, it might just be a folktale.
So every time I make any kind of Viking recipe, or even use the word Viking, I get a lot of comments, because there is a lot of rather pedantic controversy about the term Viking.
Right.
Because originally the word did not refer to the entire Norse people of the 7th to 11th centuries, which is how we usually use it today,
Right.
but only to those that were engaged in raiding and pillaging, essentially pirates that were not part of a war. But as the meaning of words tend to evolve, just like December used to mean the 10th month and now we celebrate it in the 12th month, I think we have to be rather flexible with how we use the term Viking.
Okay.
However, in this video, the term Viking is actually being used in its original sense, because those people who rolled up on the shores of Lindisfarne in 793 were most definitely raiding and pillaging.
Okay, I want you to take note of the look of everybody on this picture. Just a general look. This guy is looking over here like, Dave, is it really necessary? This guy over here can't believe it's not butter, and he's outraged. And Sven here was just told by this guy that he owed him back taxes. It did not go well for this guy. I don't think you needed me to tell you that. But the look on this honestly looks like my dad when he was irritated at anything ever. Just that flat, neutral look where he's just staring at it like, I'm about to make this problem go away using science.
But before we get to them, it's actually really important to know about the place that they were pillaging.
Cat won't leave me
alone. The Isle of
alone.
Lindisfarne, also called Holy Island, is off the east coast of northern England. And the first monastic cathedral there was founded in the early 600s by the Irish Saint Aidan, who served as Lindisfarne Priory's first bishop. And I know what you're thinking, a bishop's seat is usually in a very big city with a lot of other people around, and you're right, and the people, even at this time, seemed a little confused about it as well.
Not only that, you got to remember one thing. Everything was, like, even though we look back and we romanticize this time period, things were weird back then, especially in England. Like, the Anglo-Saxon culture there was very, very much, things were still relatively unusual, to say the least, as far as naming conventions, cultural things of that nature. We tend to think of, no, don't jump up there, cat. We tend to think of England in broad strokes, but there were several major cultural shifts there.
Because the Venerable Bede, who was writing not long after the founding, said, "Let no one be surprised that on this Isle of Lindisfarne, small as it is, there is found the seat of a bishop, for it actually is so."
Hooray.
And unlike a large cathedral in a big city, where then a bishop would be treated like a great lord, Bede says that at Lindisfarne, everyone from the priests, deacons, singers, and readers, and other ecclesiastical grades, together with the bishop himself, keep the monastic rule in all things.
Good for him.
Very down to earth.
Yes.
Until it became a tourist trap.
Right.
Yes, today, while visitors go to Hollywood Boulevard and Disneyland, the place to vacation in 8th century Europe was church. Yay! And instead of waiting hours in line to see Mickey Mouse, be he the real thing or a cheap knockoff, medieval pilgrims waited in line to see the bones and other relics of saints, even though sometimes those were also cheap knockoffs. But in Lindisfarne, the bones of St. Cuthbert were almost definitely real, and people flocked from all over Britain to see these bones. And if remains of dead saints aren't your thing, they had other things, because the monks were known all across Northern Europe for their wonderful medical knowledge and were the proud creators of the Lindisfarne Gospels, some of the most spectacular illuminated manuscripts of the time. There was something for everyone at Lindisfarne. And just like tourist traps or theme parks today have a whole infrastructure around them to help deal with all of the people, so that same thing happened on Lindisfarne. And so by the 790s, it was not just the priory, but a whole little village had grown up around it. And
so, I knew that churches were, like, back then they didn't call them vacations, they called them pilgrimages. And, people would travel to holy sites as part of atonement and things of that nature. But I never knew this about Lindisfarne itself. I had always been led to believe, and probably, by my own admission, just because I haven't researched it enough, I had always thought it was a small village with the church itself, with the monastery itself nearby.
Then came the year 793.
Oh boy.
And the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle lets us know what happened in 793, and it was not a good year.
Beat down.
This year, dreadful, foreboding omens came over the land of the Northumbrians, terrifying the people most woefully. These were immense sheets of light rushing through the air, and whirlwinds and fiery dragons were seen flying across the sky. These signs were soon followed by a great famine, and not long after, on the 6th day before the Ides of January in the same year, the ravaging of wretched heathen men destroyed God's church at Lindisfarne with pillaging and slaughter. And yes, it says January, but that is because of a scribal error. We do know from other writings of the time that it was in June, and specifically, we know that it was at high tide. See, Lindisfarne is not really an island all the time. It's what's known as a tidal island. And at low tide, there was a muddy footpath that could lead you to and from the mainland. And on that mainland, there was a well-defended castle at Bamborough. So if you're going to attack an undefended priory there, you're going to do it at high tide so that the fellas from the castle can't come over to save the day.
As one does.
So high tide is coming in, and the villagers and monks see off in the distance some ships coming, but they were probably just traders heading to the mainland. Happened all the time. But as they got closer, they noticed on the prow of their ships there were dragons, and the men inside were large, probably blonde, and carrying axes and swords. They came to the church at Lindisfarne, laid everything waste with grievous plundering, trampled the holy places with polluted steps, dug up the altars, and seized all the treasures of the holy church. They killed some of the brothers, took some away with them in chains. Many they drove out, naked and loaded with insults. Some they drowned in the sea. So there were other people there that day, but all of the writings focus on the church and the monks.
Right.
And it was because it was a church and because they were monks that people freaked out, and it's often seen as the day that the Viking Age began. It also helped that word of the event actually spread very far, very quickly, because of correspondence from Bishop Higbald, who was there that day and actually survived, writing to Alcuin, who was a scholar at the court of Charlemagne. And Alcuin, writing back to Higbald, was shocked that the Vikings poured out the blood of saints around the altar, laid waste the house of our hope, trampled on the bodies of saints in the temple of God, like dung in the street.
There you go.
There had been other Viking raids that just never really got much attention because while it's, never a good thing to kill peasants and tear up villages, Alcuin and the others of the time were worried about the church.
Right.
For what assurance is there for the churches of Britain if St. Cuthbert defends not his own? Either this is the beginning of greater tribulation, or else the sins of the inhabitants have called it upon them. Truly,
it must definitely be that.
it has not happened by chance, but is a sign that it was well merited by someone. So first he blames the bones of a dead saint for not coming to the rescue, and then in one of history's most infamous cases of victim blaming, he actually pins it on the monks, saying that they were kind of asking for it because of the fact that they were drinking and of how they were dressed.
Also, the fact they were drawing anime waifus. That is most definitely what caused it, 100%.
Do not glory in the vanity of dress. That is cause for shame, not boasting in priests and servants of God. Do not blur the words of your prayers by drunkenness. Do not go out after the indulgences of the flesh and the greed of the world. Stand firm in the service of God, and the saints will not cease protecting you.
There you go.
If they see you following their example.
If they had just, dressed better and not got lost in the sauce and not drawn the anime girls, the skeleton of St. Cuthbert would have risen up and defended them. It would have happened 100% while chanting the Necronomicon.
Sounds like a jerk, but
While
he
Sabaton
did
played in the
promise
background.
to at least bring the matter up with Charlemagne, if only to try to get some of those monks who had been sent into slavery back.
Yeah.
When our Lord King Charles returns from defeating his enemies by God's mercy, I plan to go to him, and if I can do anything for you about the boys who have been carried off by the pagans as prisoners, or about any other of your needs, I shall make every effort to see that it is done. And we don't know if he ever got any of them back, but probably not.
No.
And even if he had, it would have been a small victory because for the next few centuries, the Vikings went nuts. They spread across Britain, through Russia, into the Byzantine Empire, northern Europe, and all the way down to Sicily. And they kept visiting that poor little isle of Lindisfarne until eventually the monks had to abandon the entire place. The ruins of the monastery that are there now actually are much later, from a monastery that was built in 1093 after the monks were able to come back once the Vikings of Europe had transitioned over into being the aristocracy of Europe. And you might think that after the first, second, or even third raid on your island, the monks would stop having things that the Vikings wanted to steal.
But you gotta have the bling, yo!
Or maybe what kept bringing the Norsemen back to the island was the temptation of a wonderful pork with berry sauce.
Oh.
And here we are, pork tenderloin with berry sauce that might have been eaten at the beginning of the Viking Age. So it smells really good, but the sauce is not very thick. I kind of thought that it would be thicker, and maybe it depends on what kind of fruit you're using, but without adding any kind of starch, it's just not going to thicken up as much as one might expect a sauce today. So it kind of soaks into the meat, but maybe that's okay. Let's give it a shot.
Go for it.
It's okay.
Nice.
First of all, the pork is absolutely fantastic, and it's kind of a nice neutral palate that lets the sauce really shine. And shine it does, because at first it's really very sweet, but then the sweetness is completely eclipsed by these much more interesting flavors of the mustard, of the actual meat that was cooked, that was in the sauce, the meat juice.
I should not watch this channel when I'm hungry. I should not do this when I'm hungry, because now I'm starving, okay? And I'm fat, so that's not a good idea.
And then you get a little bit of the spice from the leek or the onion. And then only at the very, very end do you get a hint of that mint. It's kind of refreshing.
Nice.
It's really, really interesting. It's a wonderful mix of the flavors, and it could go on pretty much, like I said, it could go on pretty much any meat. But I think that with something a little lighter, like a pork or a chicken, it's going to shine more than something really gamey that has a lot of flavor in the meat itself.
Okay.
So follow me on Instagram, Tasting History with Max Miller, or you can check out my Patreon, which I'll put a link in the description if you want to support the channel that way, or just watch more videos like this one about Dragonheart, another wonderful Viking episode. And I will see you next time on Tasting History.
Guys, again, this is... I love learning about events. One thing I like more than anything as far as history goes is learning more about events that I already knew about. Getting that depth, getting that extra little bit. And more than delivered here. More than delivered. The whole... It's so nice to be able to find these recipes, for him to be able to put these up in front of us and show what these people actually would have had access to at the time, what they would have eaten, everything like that. Because we take so much here for granted. He could have used, a starch to, thicken that up, but he didn't. Primarily because they might not have had access to it back then. He keeps it honest, and I gotta tell you, this has become one of my favorite channels because I'm a fat guy and I like food. Okay, that's first and foremost. But just like with his recipes, just like when he tried the recipe for garum, just like he did fast garum and then regular garum, just like with his recipe for Anzac biscuits, just like with his other recipes, he only used what was available. And he uses pure ingredients, which I approve of. Now, Dragonheart, I'm a little bit concerned about giving that a shot. But, Warpugs, Tasting History with Max Miller, his book, description below. And, check out the wife's channel. We're going to be giving some of these a shot. I don't know when that'll be up, but it is. She's currently building planter boxes. She just started planting today, which is, it's kind of late in the year, but she wanted to do it anyway, and she had all the seeds standing by. And seeds are cheap, guys. Seeds are cheap. So, we may have something to harvest later on this year. That might be nice. But she's building a planter box right now. I'm kind of helping her because watching her attempt to navigate a drill without anybody there with her, oh boy. I'll catch you guys next time. All the links are going to be in the description down below. Please remember to leave a comment. It does really help out with the algorithm, so does a like. I will catch you guys next time. Join as members of Patreon for early access. Later, Warpugs.